live and pre-recorded. This is the Red Ticket Blues Podcast. I am Brian Buckley. This is hitting the internets on July 14th, 2016. How is everyone enjoying their summer? I hope you're enjoying it. Well, there you go. I asked the question, then I told you how I feel. I hope the way you're spending it. There you go. If you're new to the podcast, you can check out iTunes, TuneIn, Radio, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play. Find past episodes with guests from all over this great nation. Something for everyone's fancy. So this week we have Mr. James Wagner. He covers the New York Mets for the New York Times. Very interesting position. He just came from the Washington Post to start the season where he covered the Nationals, and now he's covering the Mets. So interesting position. We'll get into that. We'll get into, obviously, the Nationals, the Mets, being a bilingual beat writer, and how that works with the chemistry with the rest of the beat writers, and a few other things. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you about our sponsor, the Red Ticket Blues sponsor, and that is SeatSwapTickets.com. There's plenty of sites you can go to. We all know the names. I don't have to name them. You get it. Where you can sell tickets or buy tickets. But there's a difference. See, you're going to try and sell them for 30% of what they're worth, all right? 30%. Let's say your boss says, hey, guess what? I want you to do the same job, but we're going to pay you 30% less. That's ridiculous. It's offensive. Seat swap tickets, they feel the same way. So it exists for a reason, all right? Seat swap tickets, well, they connect you with other fans, just like you. So you can swap your tickets with other fans, just like you used to do with, baseball cards or Pokemon cards. No, forget Pokemon cards now. I mean, obviously, Pokemon Go app is making people into crazed zombie lunatics, and they're driving off cliffs and walking into manholes. So enjoy all that. But you actually interact with a fan. I mean, if you were going to meet some just shadowy figure in the middle of an alley, you can't really see anything. You don't want to go through that. You want to see that you're actually interacting with another person. So if you have some Met tickets you need to get off your hands, or maybe you just want to say, well, I don't want to do that, but I want to do something else. You want to trade them to see Paul Simon or the Boss or Hamilton, whatever it may be. C-Swap Tickets allows you to do that, okay? So the site itself, it was founded by two guys. They want to help you out. Two Mongo Nation guys, and you know what? They're giving exclusive access to Red Ticket Blues listeners right now, and they're giving exclusive access to a tour of their site before it goes live, before it goes public, all right? And so if you're interested, contact Josh at SeatSwapTickets.com, or you can contact both of them to whatever you want. They'll give you a private tour. Or you can contact Dan, and the email is dan@SeatSwapTickets.com. So the entire internet, try looking around. You won't find any other place that's safer than swapping tickets than SeatSwapTickets.com. That is SeatSwapTickets.com. And in case you just didn't hear me or completely tuned out, I'm going to say it one more time so you understand. SeatSwapTickets.com. So here's James Wagner. He covers the New York Mets for the New York Times. He is James Wagner. James, thanks for coming on the Red Ticket Blues podcast.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. It is a pleasure of mine for you to be here. So let's go with the question that everyone is asking, I'm sure, and that is, are you frightened about the anticipated Pokemon explosion when the second half of MLB resumes in the clubhouse and the dugout and all over?
No idea. I mean, I just learned about this the other day. I don't think it's something I will try. But then I read some pretty alarming stories about people getting robbed, they get their phones jacked, or I think there's stuff happening, weird stuff with the game, but people doing it at work. So no, it's not something I'll try. Hopefully no one's running around the stadium during games or whatever with it. So hopefully there's no Pokemon on the field.
Let's pray, right? We're in the middle. We're recording this on Tuesday evening. The All-Star game is a few hours away. So we're just talking about what you're doing off the air. But what does a beat writer normally do on the All-Star break? Do they remove themselves from baseball, or are they just glued to the home run derby in the All-Star game?
No, I mean, it's something I do watch. I watched some of the home run derby yesterday. I watched some of the All-Star game just because it's kind of cool to see all those players there together at the same time. But yeah, for sure. I mean, it's time to kind of catch your breath and breathe like everybody else, like the players themselves, the coaches, front office. It's time for the reporters to just kind of take a break. So yeah, I'll watch those two things. I'll take care of some life stuff, moving in my case, read, catch up on reading, catch up on some other work, expenses, just some basic life stuff, and then get back at it on Friday.
This is a quick question that I did no research on. I was just looking on Twitter right before you called here, and I saw Pete Abraham of the Boston Globe just tweeted that San Diego, while they're playing the All-Star game in San Diego, this is the AL is the home team, and this is like the third time straight that the AL is actually the home team. How is that possible? I did no research on this.
No idea. It's because of the World Series, all right. I don't know. I forget how this works.
Is that how it works? The World Series? Okay.
I mean,
okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound like an idiot if I'm saying that wrong, but yeah. But I mean, I think that would be. But then the Giants won in fourth. Wait. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the Giants won in 14. So why would the NL have been the home team? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. Maybe something that didn't occur to me. I don't want to sound like an idiot for not knowing. So
that's no problem.
Yeah.
That's no problem. So, all right. So without getting too detailed and spilling any secrets here, how do you go from moving from one national paper in the Washington Post covering the Nationals to another covering a team in the same sport in the same division mid-season? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the boring nitty-gritty of like personnel changes, but yeah, I mean, it was just opportunity arose. Talk to the Times. It was an opportunity to fit for both of us. It was a good match. It's a thing I wanted to try. Covering a new team. It was a new challenge. Kind of a new, the kind of different approach that the Times has with covering sports and baseball. I wanted to try myself. I love the Washington Post. It's a great newspaper. So was the New York Times. Just kind of ready for something different in that sense. And it came about. The timing is kind of different. I think people kind of see it as odd, but it's just the way it kind of happened. So. Yeah, I mean, switching mid-season is not as easy because, you don't get the benefit of kind of something, more low-key spring training to get to know people. But, I mean, it's still an important season. It's still the same sport, 6 inches to home plate, 90 feet around the bases. I mean, it's still the same rules. So, thankfully, it's a team that I watched in the same division for the last 4.5 years. So you're kind of used to the same characters. I don't know them as personally or as intimately, but kind of the general sense is how the Mets did versus the Nats and what they were doing. So I mean, I'm grateful that it's the same division and not say like the AL West or like the Mariners, who I know nothing about. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that helps you. You know exactly what's going on, and so that kind of leads me to my next question. While you were covering the Nationals in February, March to begin the season, what were your expectations for the team you're covering now in the New York Mets when the season began?
I don't know about my expectations, but I think in general, a lot of people, I don't say consensus, but the majority opinion in baseball was that the Mets would be good, and then maybe even contend to win the division title again. It seems like the modern game is built around starting pitching, and I feel like that's a pretty sound model for a team. And they had the best, if not one of the best, starting rotations in baseball with depth too. So yeah, I think people expected them to contend, to repeat or contend for division. Repeat, the title again and maybe push again to the World Series and deep into the playoffs like they did last year. So I don't know. I think starting pitching is a great way to build a team. And the Mets had it, still do. It's not gone yet, despite injuries. And the same with the Nationals. The Nationals were built around starting pitching too. Their best years were when they had good rotations.
Broad question here. It makes me think, what would you see what's happening with the Mets. And like you said, nothing's fallen apart. They're still there. But the pitching has taken a hit. I mean, if you're going to create a team, and this is a total opinion question, would you want to build it around pitching or do you want to build it around hitting? Because pitching, when it works, man, it works. But you can see it's a house of cards when the pitching goes down.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different ways to build a team. Maybe there's no right or wrong. You've seen teams with offense, get deep into the playoffs. I mean, the Kansas City Royals, had pretty decent starting pitching last year. I wouldn't say great, but look what happened. They were more built around, contact, hitting lineup, a strong defense, and exceptional bullpen. I think the starting pitching was just built to get them 5 innings. I don't think they necessarily had a dominant rotation, but they had the other parts that they thought could maximize that. So. But I think, traditionally teams with good starting, something that's held true within the past decade or so that I remember looking this up not long ago. But yeah, I mean, I think the way I see it, I'm not a GM, but I think the way I would probably do it is run starting pitching too. I mean, they hold the ball, the most number of times during a game, the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And they, kind of like that was the model of the Atlanta Braves when they had the dramatic run of, how many years of reaching the playoffs and winning divisions. It was that like, you're as good as you're only as good as the starting pitcher that day. They hold the ball the most number of times. They affect the game the most. Why wouldn't you build it around those guys? And if you have 5 really good guys, I bet you're more than likely going to win more games than not.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you have a starting 5 like the Mets did in the beginning of the season, you can go nowhere but up. But obviously, things haven't gone great. I mean, you have Harvey out for the rest of the year. There's an infestation of bone spurs on the pitching staff. Hell has not officially broken loose yet, and I know you don't get secret meetings with Terry Collins and Sandy Alderson, but do the Mets do they have a makeshift or hypothetical solution if hell does break loose, or are they looking to pick up some pitchers on the market? Is there someone in the minor leagues that can jump in? What do they do if that starting 5 is not as pretty as it was in April?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think they are with one more major injury away from being in kind of serious trouble rotation-wise. I think, I don't know. I mean, like, Bartolo Colon has probably performed better than people expected. I think they thought he'd be good, but I don't know if they thought he'd be like, this good so far. I mean, before his last start, I think he had a sub-3 ERA, halfway through the season, which has been a huge boost for them because of the early hiccups with DeGrom, Matz in his elbow, now Syndergaard in his fatigue, and then Harvey pitching inconsistently because of the thoracic outlet syndrome. So yeah, I mean, I think I don't think they don't really have much room for more injuries in that sense. Say if Matz's elbow, bone spur becomes more of a problem, or Syndergaard just can't handle his arm is too fatigued or the workload is too big for him. So I don't know. I mean, I think before Syndergaard and Matt were an issue, I think Harvey was an issue, and now he's done for the rest of the season. I think they can look at starting rotation. They can look maybe at rotation help across baseball. I don't know if they necessarily will be able to pull it off. But say Matt goes down with bone spur, let's say that really does bother him, and he might need season-ending surgery at some point. Then I think you're going to need starting pitching. I don't think you can get by with just 3 guys, and I think that I think the Zach Wheeler setbacks, although you can never really count on anything when a guy's coming back from major injury like Tommy John. But his minor setbacks have kind of made his prospects of coming back sooner rather than later even harder. I mean, I think the guy might not be back till early Testament, maybe even August.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, they were counting on him to kind of come back and help, and I think his setbacks have kind of made it even harder. So yeah, I think it's kind of unthinkable before the season that they might need rotation help. But now, they might.
And with the second wild card, it makes things even more difficult. Teams are not, they don't want to sell immediately. They still think that they may have a chance. And it was what I was going to say was a big deal that the trading deadline has been pushed back, but it's been pushed back an entire day. So maybe not as much.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the Nationals for 1 second. I mean, you're from the Mid-Atlantic area and you covered the team for 5 years. I know you're only a few months into your tenure as Mets beat writer. Is there anything that you notice about the Nationals as an outsider now that maybe you didn't notice when you were covering the team?
About the Nationals? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think, I think the perceptions of guys like Bryce Harper, I think the people's outside perspective on him was that he was maybe, a little bit of a punk. And maybe he has kind of like the brash, cocky personality, the tendencies kind of show during a game. But I think, he and I see more from the outside that people feel that way. But I think, when you deal with someone like him on a day-to-day basis, I found Harper to be very easy to work with, pretty amenable, more thoughtful, and more open than people realize. So I think maybe when you watch just on the field and people just see that because they're removed, they see just that brash, cocky personality. I'm not saying that that's not some of those qualities aren't there, but being around him every day, I saw something different. So from afar, I see that people feel that way. The Nationals as a whole, I think maybe, I think people realize they're a legit threat this year. They were supposed to be last year, but they were undermined by so many things from injuries to the clubhouse and the manager, to maybe not hitting well, not pitching as well as they did. But I think now it's almost like the reverse. The same thing is happening to the Mets now with all the expectations And then, the second, quote unquote, like, second favorite has now emerged as the favorite. So, yeah, I mean, from afar, I think those are the kind of things that stand out. But, it's been a blur the last month, so I don't have as much perspective as I'd like.
Is Harper, I mean, people always like to use the cliche headline of saying he really embraces being the villain. I mean, is that true, or is that just a headline to sell newspapers?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think people see him that way. He gets booed a lot. He embraces being booed. I mean, I think the line he has said that when he gets booed is because he knows that people, like, I mean, nobodies don't get booed. I mean, good guys good players get booed. So Bryce has embraced that in that way. So I don't know if he necessarily, like, enjoys being the villain, but I think he doesn't mind. Like, he knows what kind of comes with his like, status, like, MVP, all-star, young hotshot, a face of baseball, sort of like, he draws people's ire. So I think he knows. I think he's handled it pretty well. I mean, sometimes it's gotten to him, but in a lot of places that he gets booed a lot. He'll still show up before the game and sign, like, along the foul poles, like where where fans line up for autographs.
Isn't that always amazing?
He gets booed a lot in Philadelphia.
That's always amazing.
For those guys, and, like, throws the ball back in the stands after a fly ball or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's not shunning them. It's unique. Yeah.
I'm always intrigued by that. Like, I go see the Yankees play against the Orioles, and Alex Rodriguez is out there while everyone's stretching. He'll sign autographs for a good hour. But then that first time he comes up to bat, I mean, the boos are just eruption. I always did find that interesting. Obviously, most of those people didn't get an autograph. Maybe they're just pissed off. I don't know. So let's be honest. You're gone now. Give us the dirt. What was the aftermath of the Papbebon Harper spat like in the clubhouse? And don't spare us any salacious or filthy detail.
About what?
About Harper and Papbebon last year. What was that like?
Oh, yeah. So I didn't hear the second part. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. It all happened in front of everyone to see. The whole world saw the incident, so I don't really not much that you don't know that I can say. But, like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think it's been building up for a while with Papbebon. Papbebon might deny it publicly, but there was, the sense that, earlier in that month, I think maybe about a week and a half before, Harper said that, Papbebon hitting Manny Machado after a home run was kind of tired. The act of, like, getting plunked after a home run. I'm sure, Papbebon's not immune to that stuff. He heard that stuff. Papbebon had been wanting to, kind of get on Harper about something, and then it just happened to be the day after they got eliminated from playoff contention. A lot of emotions were brewing. Between those two. It's a bad moment for the team. It had been a bad season. And then, boom, Papbebon went off, and Harper challenged him back, and then look what happened. I think it was a big black eye and a really frustrating season for the team. And oddly enough, it came the day after they got eliminated. So, I think people try to point to Papbebon being like the downfall of the team. He wasn't. He just represents that for people. People resent him being there, resent Drew Storen getting knocked out of the closers role. Papbebon had been good up until the last couple weeks of the season, and then boom, they get eliminated. He does that, and they've gone the rest of the year. So, yeah, I mean, I think both of those players seem to contend that it was more of an issue in the outside world than it was to them inside, because Papbebon and Harper, coexist without any issue now. But yeah, I mean, I think, them brushing it off like it was nothing is not true or fair, because it was, I mean, you don't see a teammate, a veteran teammate that knows better, trying to choke the MVP of the team. That doesn't happen every day. So,
no, that's not
yeah, they might be fine now. They don't have to be best friends. They don't have to get dinner every day on the road, but they can still coexist as teammates.
This goes back to one of my previous questions here. I'll phrase it here. When you're a beat writer, I think it's a prerequisite now that you have to have a Twitter account. So you started the year as the Nationals, covering the Nationals for the Washington Post, and now you're with the Mets. I mean, do you see a fluctuation in your Twitter count or follows? And do you get crap from people? Because there's some fans that can't seem to gather that, this is your job and you're not just a fan, because, we know Twitter is all about positivity. So have you gotten any, crap from people about the switch?
Yeah, I mean, people will call me a traitor, but I didn't work for the Nationals. I worked for the newspaper that covered the Nationals. So I think people kind of did not understand how this works. They just, they kind of see you as, covering their team. So by extension, you're a part of the team, which is not true, even when you are critical and fair about what they do. When they do it, when it deserves to be, critical about it. Yeah, so I think they call you a traitor when they see you going to a division rival. And again, just have to keep reminding them. I choose the newspaper, I don't choose the team. So I think just trying to remind them of that. You lose a fair amount of followers, because you're jumping from one rival to the other,
which makes sense.
But that's fine. I have no problem with it. But yeah, just reminding people that. But yeah, this is just like it's the same sport, just another team. Like it's no hard feelings. Either way.
So you're moving from one area to another, and this player who catches, I see this a lot on the Mets Twitter fan base, a name that is constantly talked about, regardless of the team he's on. That's Daniel Murphy. You guys seem to be switching spots over and over again. What has the reaction been like covering against Daniel Murphy throughout the past, I don't know, maybe 10 months or so?
Oh, you mean covering the other side?
Yeah, exactly. Now covering him with the Nationals, covering when he was on the Mets, then with the Nationals. Yeah. Now you're with the Mets.
Yeah, I didn't deal with him a ton when I was covering the Nats and he was on the Mets. Just the times I needed, after something happened in the game and I went on the other side, to talk to him after a game or something like that. But yeah, I knew that he had been kind of like a pest for some Nats pitchers for years. I still remember distinctly, like Jordan Zimmerman just kind of hating when Daniel Murphy was in the lineup because he always had his number. I think he had like 300 off of him in his career. So I remember joking around with Jordan Zimmerman about the number of times that Murphy was in there or not, or in the lineup that day, or maybe he was gone, or paternity leave, or maybe he was gone because he was just hurt, and kind of reprieve from Murphy. But yeah, I didn't get to deal with him on a day-to-day basis until he was a National this year. So didn't get to know him as well. Because he'd been in New York obviously for a long time. We'd overlapped while I was covering the Nats for a couple of months. Got to know him. The guy is meticulous about hitting. He's very meticulous in everything he does, from like his pregame stretches out there like 30 minutes before the game stretching. He's very meticulous about his hitting. He's the hitting nut. Talks about hitting all the time with his teammates. He can break down hitting. He's very observant when it comes to the hitting craft. So yeah, now covering on this side, just to see the agony that like Mets fans are going through of watching every time he comes up to bat, which has been majority of the time has ended in something really dramatic for the Nats. The guy's got 7 home runs and 21 RBI in 13 games against the Nationals this year, which maybe at the end of the season could have decided the division. Those 7 home runs and 21 RBI, like the division race could come down to that the one guy's performance.
And there's still 3 series with the Nationals in the last 35 days of
Correct.
The season. So, your last name is Wagner, a rustic German name, but your mom is from Nicaragua. You are a Spanish speaker. Now, as a Spanish speaker, as a beat writer dealing with players, obviously almost 30% of the MLB is of Hispanic descent. Do you immediately approach a player speaking Spanish, or do you, just let them know, hey, I speak, mira, yo hablo español, or do you just go right into it and you already get a comfort level right like that?
Yeah, if the guy's obviously a Spanish speaker, let's say the guy could be, last name could be like Gio Gonzalez, for example. Gio Gonzalez speaks Spanish, speaks English, but the majority of his life is in English. The guy is of Cuban descent, but born and raised in Hialeah, Florida, just a suburb of Miami. So yeah, with Gio, I would know automatically not to go up to him and speak to him in Spanish. Not that he doesn't speak Spanish; he speaks Spanish well. He grew up with his parents with it, but English is his primary language in terms of like his day-to-day life. So yeah, but most of the time, if it's like a foreign-born Latino or Cuban, Dominican, Venezuelan, whatever it might be. Yeah, most of the time I'll approach them in Spanish. I'll explain, that I work for the New York Times. My name is Wagner, but I'm Nicaraguan American. I'm a native Spanish speaker. And by then, they can tell that I'm a fluent speaker, native speaker. Right. There's no accent. I speak it clearly, and this is the way my mom raised me. Not to toot my own horn in that sense, sorry. But my mom was very, rigid and diligent about teaching us Spanish. If I made a mistake when I was younger, and I still do, let's say I might slip up and maybe say this wrong or write something wrong in Spanish, she would correct it immediately and work on it. She was very, I grew up overseas because of my dad's job. and just the opportunity to preserve our culture and our language. My mom was very rigid about that. At the time it might have been annoying, but now I really am grateful to her. So,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it opens up a lot with the players. The players feel more comfortable, and not necessarily just that you speak the language and speak it well, and they can feel like they can communicate more thoughtfully and in more detail, more thoroughly with you, but just you understand their culture and where they're coming from. Whether it be the food that they eat, the customs and what they're used to. I think that stuff means a lot to them because, to be fair, like the way baseball is played in Latin America is different than it's played in the United States or the Cuba, they play with more emotion and more flair, or what matters, with the values to, and customs for a Latin American player or Latin American period are different than, say, like an American. So I think, they feel more comfortable and are willing to open up more in that sense.
Have you ever caught, dirty looks or looks of jealousy just because of, extra access to a player for like a featured column? Have you caught dirty looks from other reporters for your, ability to speak Spanish?
Yeah, it's sometimes, and yeah, it happens. But it's not. I'm lucky enough that I was born into this, and my mom was really good about teaching us, and I was finally receptive to it later in life. But yeah, it's an advantage I have, and I will use it, especially because a large portion of these guys just they can't communicate and are kind of voiceless in that sense, or were voiceless for a long time. You look at the struggles of Roberto Clemente back in the day, fighting for Latinos and Latino rights and in the representation and the way we're portrayed in the media. I think, those are important battles because even still nowadays, some guys are still not, the stereotypes that come with being a Latin American ball player, whether sometimes they're labeled as maybe not being a good teammate or reclusive or not as intelligent as other guys or not as observant or thoughtful. When they really are, they just can't communicate in their own language that way. They can't do this. They get to the same level of thoughtfulness in English, their second language, as they would in their own language. So yeah, it's something I will use to my advantage, and whether other people are jealous about it, whatever, I can't control that. And yeah, sometimes even like, team officials, kind of look at you because, what are you finding out about us? That's telling you that we can't hear or understand, but now there are interpreters around, so they can hear.
I think MLB's come a long way by having mandated interpreters in every clubhouse. And you bring up Roberto Clemente from when 30, 40 years ago, when papers would actually phonetically put the things that he said in incorrect English, almost as if a black eye to him to make him look, like you said, just can't express himself as much or not be as smart when you read a quote like that in the newspaper.
Oh, totally. I think, but at some level, I am a proponent of having guys, express themselves in the way they speak. So let's say you're from the South in the United States. You're an English speaker, and you say Ghana, Wana, kind of those things. I'm not from the South, but I say Ghana sometimes. It's just kind of natural, kind of colloquialisms. That's how people speak. But yeah, wouldn't you want to represent the way they said that? The regional like way of speaking, the regional dialect. That's fair to represent, but. Yeah, so I'm a fan of that, but sometimes in English, when the guy's really trying, it's not
exactly
language.
It's a different thing,
and it kind of makes them look stupid when you're or silly when you're kind of quoting them as is. You can kind of put the brackets or parentheses in there to kind of like change the word to make sure it's legible or clear to other people, so that that it's the point of language is to communicate. If people don't understand you, then if you say wanna, people understand what that means. But if it's so confusing and broken, then you kind of should kind of help them out.
I had a Jared Diamond of the Wall Street Journal on the podcast a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago or so, and I'm going to ask you the same question I asked him. Why in a league with almost 30% Latino, why are there no Latino managers in the MLB right now?
Yeah, I'm not a team president, team owner, or GM, so
your best guess then.
I don't know. People. I don't want to overgeneralize, but people hire what they know. These are the circles that they're around. Not to overgeneralize here, but there are instances, say for example, like the Ivy League, kind of pushed, or like the business school, the former business type. Pushed in presidents and GMs, and maybe they hire from what they know. They hire their buddies, wherever they might be. So maybe not necessarily, guys, like Latinos, say like Freddie Gonzalez in his case. Freddie worked his way up. Former player, worked his way up as a coach and a manager. He didn't go to business school. He didn't go like that. As far as I know, he didn't go to Ivy League. So yeah, I mean, maybe people hire what they know. Maybe like once players get to the major leagues, they have some command of English. So maybe some teams don't see the need to have that. Maybe they just haven't gotten the opportunity. I really don't know about, every team's situation and why they didn't hire, say Latino managers. But, I always heard, I covered a managerial search, the Nationals, and it was partly actually two of them, when they hired Matt Williams and then when they hired, Dusty Baker. And, things stood out to me, a couple of those twice in, span of 2 years. People said, why hasn't Dave Martinez gotten a job yet? He's the bench coach for the Chicago Cubs. People spoke really highly of him. And really, sometimes it just comes down to opportunity. So, some GM or president really just has to be willing to do it, willing to take the plunge and hire them. I don't know necessarily, an overt or conscious effort not to hire Latinos, but maybe just not hiring what they know. They're not hiring what they know.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It just seems advantageous for a team to do, hire someone that can communicate with everyone. So last question here. We'll go through. We'll look at baseball as a whole here. Your new coworker Tyler Kepner wrote recently how home runs this season are up, and everyone is probably. We all know what that means. They're on pace. MLB's on pace for 5,600 home runs at the end of the season, the highest since 2000. We all know what was going on in the year 2000. So. We can assume the usual suspect, but do you think there's something else, or is it just, hey, that's just the way it is this season?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to enough pitchers about this, but I know that people rumbling about the ball being different. I don't know. I mean, baseball has denied it. The commissioner, I think, denied it today at the All-Star game. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if the ball necessarily make a difference. I don't know. I mean, I think, the numbers are up this year. I don't know what they are in terms of, 1 year spike. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician or statistician. I don't know if a 1 year spike is enough of a trend. I think if it's continual, maybe it's within reason. The ball's just, the number of home runs has jumped up. I don't have any theories myself. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's like players, getting, there's a down year that all these like home run hitters got hurt in the same year. I don't know. Or maybe like, more good pitchers got hurt in 1 year. And so now pitchers, hitters are taking advantage of, say, lesser pitchers. I don't know. I don't know what can be causing it, but I have kind of noticed that, the Mets are, a home run hitting team. So, it goes in spurts, just the number of home runs they hit and they hit a lot of them. So I haven't really thought, I don't really have any theories yet myself as to why this is happening, other than Tyler presented some uniquely interesting ones from what some of the players said.
Yeah. Maybe the cutters being thrown a certain way, or parks are being bringing in the fences, things like that. But you're right. I don't think there is a concrete answer. But I want to thank James Wagner for coming on the podcast. But before you go, James, I have 3 quick questions to play us out. You ready?
Sure.
All right. Will baseball start reviewing balls and strikes?
No.
Okay. You just recently wrote an article about Henry's Familia playing tricks on people in the Mets clubhouse. Has he played any on you yet?
He tried the energy drink cooler with plastic snake in it on me. Him and Hansel Robles, but I did not fall for it because I refused to accept an energy drink from a player in the clubhouse. Yeah.
And finally, you're a music lover. What is the best concert you've ever been to?
Oh, man. Oh, God.
I touched a nerve here.
Oh, man. Best concert I've ever been to. I don't know. I haven't made much time for concerts recently, which is a shame. But I got to hear some of the Wu-Tang Clan a couple of years ago, and I thought that was incredible. It was like, it was Ghostface, Raekwon, and GZA, I think, were there, and it was awesome. You got to hear those guys.
That's great. Where did you see them?
It was in D.C.
Very nice. Very good. I'd love to see the Wu-Tang Clan anytime, even after, it's been 25 years since Into the 36 Chambers, but that's okay.
Okay.
All right, you can follow him. He covers the Mets for the New York Times. He is James Wagner. You can follow him on Twitter at @James Wagner, BY James Wagner. James, thanks for coming on the podcast.
No problem. Thanks, man.
So there he is, James Wagner, New York Times. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Excellent guest, a long line of excellent guests on the Red Ticket Blues podcast. So thank you to Mr. Wagner. Hey, if you want to listen to more of the Red Ticket Blues podcast, well, check out iTunes, TuneIn, Radio, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play. And you can check me out on Twitter at BrianBuck13 and at Red Ticket Blues. If you've missed a show or you want to hear more shows or you don't want to miss a show in the future, all sorts of scenarios that you're going to have to deal with on a personal level, well, you're going to want to subscribe on any of those podcasting venues before. And hey, if you're nice enough, I don't want to go too far. If you're nice enough, please leave a rating because it helps the show grow and get more exposure. So thank you very much if you've already done so, and shame on you, you heartless bastards that haven't. So with all that being said, I'm out of here.